cutting corners, ignoring safety protocols, and an ego that won't quit have all been elements of catastrophe covered on this channel. There's nothing more unfortunate yet addicting to research than a company that blatantly ignores advice and puts people's lives at risk, all in the name of profit. Today, we take a look at yet another failure to do what's morally right, all in the name of money. Let's take a look at what happened to cause the Rana Plaza collapse. In 2006, construction on the Rana Plaza was complete in the Dhaka district of central Bangladesh. What was supposed to be a 4-story building became an 8-story building, and this is where the issues began. The Rana Plaza was a garment factory building, but the head of architect says it was never supposed to be. Planned only for shops and offices, the upper floors, especially those 4 added without a proper approval or permit, weren't designed to hold the weight of vibrating factory machines. The building was constructed on top of a filled-in pond, so the foundation wasn't all that stable to begin with. Owner Sohail Rana also approved the building's construction using substandard materials because there weren't enough problems with this thing to begin with. Ignoring all the factors that could lead to catastrophe, the factory opened with apparel being produced for brands like Prada, Gucci, Walmart, Versace, The Children's Place, Mango, and many others. The building stood for 7 years, and some thought they had gotten away with it. If they need some physical proof that this was all a bad idea, they got the warning signs too. On April 23, 2013, one day before the collapse, a TV channel recorded footage that showed cracks in the building. Upon this discovery, the building was evacuated, and the bottom levels were closed down. But the owner wasn't having any of that nonsense. He told the media that the building was perfectly safe, and demanded everyone get back to work the next day or risk having their pay withheld. Sounds like a real outstanding guy. On the morning of April 24th, there was a power outage. But no worries, there were large vibrating generators on the upper floors that kicked on to save the day. At 8:57 a.m., only a few hours after the workers were called back in, the building began to crack and crumble. One of the residents stated that the scene looked like and sounded like an earthquake had struck. There were 3,122 workers in the building at the time of the collapse, and now it was a race to get them out. The United Nations Urban Search and Rescue Team offered to help, but the government of Bangladesh refused, stating that the local rescue teams were enough equipped to handle the task. The UN knew this wasn't true, but it was now a means of saving face instead of actually saving people's lives. At the time, 83% of Bangladesh's foreign currency was coming from the garment district. With the economy depending on it, this led to a problem with unsanitary sweatshops and shady practices within the industry. While the Rana Plaza collapse was a catastrophe, it was one of many reasons that workers in the Bangladesh garment district met their end. Most of the time, it was factory fires caused by cheap, faulty wiring. Most of these accidents flew under the radar until major events like this collapse caught the world's attention. Now, they're all over the news, and it didn't bode well for the government's ego. Rescue attempts were even being cut short because the government didn't want to talk about it anymore. People were still trapped, surviving off their own urine in the rising temperatures, and friends and family were helpless to do anything, and the government just wanted to let them die. One of the garment manufacturing websites claimed that more than half of the victims were women and children. The local volunteer rescue team was working with the military, fire service, and police, but any outside efforts to assist were being turned down. In the end, 1,134 people perished in the rubble. 2 days after the collapse, the garment workers of Dhaka rioted, targeting vehicles, garment factories, and commercial buildings. People were angry, demanding justice against the egotistic, money-hungry owner of the building. 4 days after the collapse, their voices would be heard, and Soel Rana was arrested for the failure to fix violations all over the building. While in March 2014, Soel was granted a 6-month bail, which infuriated the workers, he was never released from jail as another lawsuit was pending against him. On June 14, 2016, Soel and 17 others were indicted for violating building code in the construction of the Rana Plaza. The collapse forced Bangladesh to start inspections of all industrial buildings and found that out of 3,425 factories, only 8 had remedied violations enough to pass failed inspections. It's a classic problem of seeing how cheap we can get away with something. While people continue to die, those responsible continue to turn around and do it again. But what about the compensation and the brands connected to the building? As of today, 24 victims' families have not been compensated for their losses. Of the 28 international brands who identified having sourced products from the Rana Plaza, only 7 agreed to contribute to the compensation of those who did get it. Other big-name companies refused to contribute. No one wanted to look bad or take blame in this situation, and it's tragic. A government that's too prideful, an owner that refused to listen to safety concerns. Thousands of people died, and thousands of more were injured beyond recognition. Some couldn't go back to work, and some are disfigured and mentally scarred for life. These were real people, but it's nobody's problem, right? They deserve recognition. Thanks for watching. For more true crime and horror, please consider subscribing. Game with me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, and as always, be well.